Okay, the next item on the agenda is communication. This is the portion of the meeting where you, the residents of Fairfield City School District, are invited to share your thoughts with the board. Please know that this time has been set aside from the board to listen to you. Your comments are valued and will be taken into careful consideration. The board will not engage in dialogue at this time. So we do have a board policy that states that time is limited to 30 minutes. However, we have 30 people that have signed up that want to speak on topics tonight, so I think that we need to have a motion to expand that to accommodate so we can hear from everybody. I don't think that we can have people speak for 5 minutes. I think that would be 2.5 hours. I think that's well beyond what we can have tonight. But I would be interested in expanding it to maybe 60 minutes or 75 minutes. Give everybody like maybe 3 minutes to talk. Okay, is that doable? So, all right, I'll make a motion to expand or adjust our policy for this evening to have, let's say, 75 minutes. Sorry?
75 minutes total?
75 minutes total, and then give everybody 3 minutes to speak. Is that okay? Is there a second?
I second that.
Any questions or comments? Okay, Mrs. Lamb, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Birding?
Yes?
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Gundrum?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mr. Begley?
Yes. Okay, so we're going to, like I said, we have 30 people that want to speak, and so we'll call you up, and I'm going to call you up like 3 at a time, okay? And so right before the third person is going to speak, I'll call up the next 3 people to sort of kind of make a cue ready for the next people to come in. And then first I would ask that you direct any comments you have towards the board. If you don't agree with somebody that has said something before you, please don't direct any kind of comments towards them. Again, this is your opportunity to speak your comments towards the board, and we will take those into consideration. Also ask you to please be civil. This is a very sensitive matter with a huge variety of difference of opinion, and so we would love to hear what you have to say. But again, please direct that towards the board. Okay, and I apologize if I mess up your name. I'll do the best I can. I'm really not very good at reading people's handwriting. But when you come up, I'll ask you to give your name for the record. You can or you don't have to give your address, but if you would like, you can also give your address. Okay? So the first 3 in this order are Tamara Murphy, Matt Mintos, Heather Flagg. The next 3, when I call you, just be ready, will be Lindsay Sheehan, David Sheehan, and Stephanie Barlow. But I'll call you up when Ms. Flagg begins. Okay, Ms. Murphy?
Good evening. My name is Tamara Murphy. I'm here to speak on basically begging the board to consider mandating masks for all of our students. As of July 22nd to July 29th, 1 in 5 cases in the state of Ohio is now a child under the age of 18. The hospitalization rate being seen across the country for children has risen to 0.9 to 1.9% as of July 22nd. Peer-reviewed studies are showing that masks in schools reduce COVID transmission significantly. As it stands currently, all of our students who can't be vaccinated, if not in masks, if exposed in an elementary school, will be forced into quarantine. This lasts up to 2 weeks. We have a shortage of technology amongst our elementary school children in Fairfield, kids that don't have access to internet. This means every time our kids are exposed, if they're not wearing masks, we're going to be looking at whole classes that are out. This will result in more and more skills gaps for our students. As a fellow educator myself, I have seen what being hybrid, what being quarantined, what being closed down does to our children. Tampa, the first week of school, had 10,000 students on quarantine in their district, 1,805 positive cases, lack of masks in all of their schools. It spread quickly. We currently have no FFCRA protection. This means that if your child gets quarantined, You don't get time off work guaranteed with pay like people were getting before. No pay for the parents can cause a great deal of hardship to our families who then have to figure out if they can get childcare. If their child does become positive, they've been exposed themselves, there's no pay protections for them as well. So other districts surrounding us have gone to mandated masks. I personally have 2 children that are in the high school that are vaccinated, but I know that seeing older children, you ask them to wear a mask, their peers are they're teasing them, nobody's wearing them. So unless we go mandated, it's going to be hit or miss. But as someone working with younger children, I'm very concerned about that population. So again, I'm going to appeal to the board to please move back to masks, and I appreciate that all but one of our board members is wearing a mask today. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mentos, did I pronounce that correctly, sir?
Mentis. My name is Matt Mentis. I do want to thank the board for allowing the opportunity to have a healthy discussion on this very important topic. Mr. Smith, it is of the utmost importance, as you mentioned in the last meeting, about this because it's our children's rights and freedoms that are at stake as well as yours. I've looked over the board's accolades, profiles, accomplishments, and service to the community. Thank you for all that you do. I know this is a tough decision. We all take our role in the community very seriously in what we do with our kids. Superintendent Smith, you commented about the power of positive leadership book, stating in the last meeting that this is the time to have this in our life. That couldn't be more true. Everybody, like I said, has invested time, and this is your chance to make a positive move by showing our children that you have their true best interests at heart. So, steps to curb the spread. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Makes sense, right? We didn't know much about it. Err on the side of caution. 2 months now. What happened to 2 weeks? Okay. Nah, 3 months. Okay, 6 months, and this thing's done. There's a vaccine? Wait. Take the vaccine and you can have your freedom. Oops, Delta variant out there. We didn't vaccinate for that. Vaccines don't protect transmission, by the way. All those vaccines getting ready, all those that had vaccinations get ready. Booster shots are on their way. When is enough enough? How much of your individual freedoms are you guys prepared to lose? At the last board meeting, most of you agreed that this is a dynamic, ongoing situation and that science and math will be your compass. So let's look at these. The science, up is down and down becomes up. CDC has changed their stance multiple times in response to COVID. Don't wear a mask at the beginning. Wear a mask. Now it's wear 2 masks. I've got all the articles here. Shouldn't wear a mask to prevent coronavirus. What doctors wish patients knew about double masking. And even the most recent one, CDC shows 74% of people infected in Massachusetts COVID outbreak were fully vaccinated. Most of the masks that are out there are not actually able to keep you from getting the SARS-CoV particles in its pure form. The hope is that these things will land in droplet form on your mask and somehow protect you from getting them inhaled. The mask also can lead to hypoxemia, which can occur and lead to impaired immunity. Reused masks are a perfect breeding ground because of the warm, moist environment. We had a thing called herd immunity. I don't know. I had chicken pox as a child.
Okay, Mr. You are at your time limit. If you could just wrap up real quick, that'd
Yes.
be great.
Chicken pox did fine for me. The quick things I want to go through: 4.3 million estimated deaths, 37.3 million cases in the U.S., 624,000 deaths because of COVID, a total population of 331 million. That's 11%. And when you do the math on the deaths, it's 0.188%, as opposed to
Okay, thank you very
influenza at 8.9%. That's considered pandemic level. At what point do we say this thing is not to that level? So I ask and pray that you guys would consider allowing everybody to have their individual choice as parents. So for us to choose what's best, because you're not their doctor, we're not, we're in charge of them, and you guys are in charge of their education, which we do appreciate, but just ask that, we would not do that to your children, to
Sure.
ask you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, after Ms. Flagg, we're going to have Lindsay Sheehan, David Sheehan, and Stephanie Barlow after Ms. Flagg.
Good evening, I'm Heather Flagg. Hello, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to speak about the issue at hand. I understand that your positions must be challenging as you aim to keep everyone safe and happy while still maintaining a sense of personal ownership that everyone should have. To me, this is more about what we are teaching our children than what our rights are or the liberties that our wonderful country was founded on. One of those liberties being the freedom of choice based on the information that we gather through all resources, especially the censored resources, because they do not follow the narrative. But I digress, because this is about what we are teaching our children. Napoleon Hill wrote in Think and Grow Rich, the 6 ghosts of fear in the final chapter. These fears are the cause for many failures we encounter and unfortunately cause worry and doubt to prevalent throughout our society. The main subjects of fear include fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of death, fear of loss, and fear of old age. What we have today in the world is fear of ill health with disregard to how amazing our immune system is. Fear of death and fear of criticism because of how dare some of us have criticism, because of how dare some of us on different opinions say anything on the Fairfield group. They call us all crazies. Good thing, fear of criticism does not rule me. What we are teaching our kids by making them wear a mask or making them get an experimental vaccine is to live in fear and obey. Do not question the government, do not question authority, and definitely do not think for yourself. Given the actual information and the actual survival rate, it seems very unnecessary to mask our children or anyone for that matter. The pathogens can still get access through the mask. And if you do get COVID, the chances of the survival are extremely high. This comes from multiple reputable doctors. There was a study that took place in New York that included 343 healthcare workers. It was in the Journal of Infectious Diseases and Epidemiology. This was the conclusion of the study. The prolonged use of the N95 and surgical masks by healthcare professionals during the COVID-19 has caused adverse effects such as headaches, rash, acne, skin breakdown, and impaired cognitive in the majority of those surveyed. Those that were surveyed were a diverse group of adults, both male and female. With this study alone, I think should speak on the subject at hand. Let's teach our children the importance of good hygiene. Germs are okay. It's how we build our immune system, and most importantly, the importance of a proper diet, drinking plenty of water, and exercise.
Okay, Ms.
Yep.
Flagg, your time is up, but if you could wrap up real quick, that would be great.
Yep,
Thank you.
no problem. Yes, put your phones down, kids, and go outside. Go amongst the germs. You will be all right. I feel the wrong lesson is being taught. We can't live in a world of fear. We can't teach our children to be afraid of something that has high survival rate. We can't teach them to fear human interaction. A country that was built on Christian philosophy, the Bible states over 300 times, we have nothing to fear.
Thank you very much. Lindsay Sheehan?
Thank you. Good evening. I've had multiple conversations at this point with members of the board, and it's my understanding that you guys are relying on the Ohio Department of Health. And at this point, the Ohio Department of Health, the CDC, American Pediatric Society Association, and both the Butler County, the Hamilton, City of Hamilton, and the Middletown health departments at this point are not only saying to schools, don't just recommend masks. you need to mandate them at this point. They're recommending universal masking for all schools. And at this point, as of August 17th, which I think was just this Wednesday, they're urging schools to mandate masks. I know it's tempting to think, well, if you're afraid, if you think that you should mandate masks or your child should wear a mask, then your child should wear a mask. Don't make my child wear a mask. But this is flawed logic, because as it's already been very clearly stated, universal masking only works when everybody does it. Last year, it was shared with me that Fairfield had 35 cases of COVID. That was only accomplished when all children and staff wore masks. That's the only way that you reach that number.
Please, I would ask you to please be quiet, let the speaker speak.
Thank you. What's the alternative? We go back to virtual learning. Schools shut down. Or, as we've already been aware, the school has given out guidelines for quarantining. So if both individuals are wearing a mask and there is an exposure, nobody has to quarantine. You can come to school, you can continue with sports, you can continue with activities. But if that person is not wearing a mask and has an exposure, you have to quarantine for 8 days, unless you show a negative test. If you refuse to get a test or you don't show a negative test, now you have to quarantine for 10 days. And I guarantee even the most avid anti-masker does not want to deal with their child being quarantined repeatedly for 8 or 10 days at a time. Butler County, Talawanda, Middletown, Lakota are all mandating masks at this point. St. Peter and Chains in Hamilton, Cincinnati Public, Mason City Schools are mandating masks. Fairfield would no longer be the outlier if they chose to mandate the masks. This is where we're going. A preventative approach, not a reactionary one, is key. People want to argue choice. Our children do not have a choice right now. Children under the age of 12 cannot be vaccinated. And so another person's choice affects other children. Because universal masking, can you please stop talking over me?
Excuse me, will you please hold on one second? I will not tolerate outbursts from the crowd. We want to hear everybody's opinion, and we can't hear, if you don't agree with Ms. Sheehan's opinion, we can't hear what her opinion is. And then if someone else comes down with your opinion, and someone with the opposite opinion is shouting them down, we can't hear that opinion as well. So please, I beg you to please respect what the speakers, I'm not gonna, we have uniformed officers here. If we have to escort people out because you can't behave, so be it. So I'm not gonna have any more discussion from the crowd. We give everybody an opportunity to speak, and we'll give you your time. So please, Ms. Sheehan, please continue.
Thank you. At this point, it's unclear to me why we're still fighting this. Children wore masks all last year. And last year, we didn't think that children really got COVID. Now we know that Delta is here, and it's more virulent, and it's more contagious. At this time, it's our best option for children that can't be vaccinated. And at this time, I would strongly urge the board to reconsider that. This is only temporary. We're not asking to do this for the rest of our lives. It's temporary, and it will only work if we work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I implore you to please have some sort of respect for people's time. We are all up here to hear everybody's opinion, one way or the other, but we can't hear. I have a hearing impairment. I have trouble hearing people. I have hearing aids, and I can't hear what they're saying if you keep, yelling and screaming out from the crowd. So please be respectful of other people. That's why we have these public hearings, so that we can hear people's opinion. And so please be respectful of their time as much as you want them to be respectful of your time. Okay, thank you very much. Now, there's also a David Sheehan. Was he not wanting to speak? Okay. All right, Stephanie Barlow. And then, I'm sorry, Ms. Barlow, before you get going, the next people would be Laxmi Akora. I apologize if I pronounce it wrong, and Michelle Scholl, and Michael Luigi. I apologize again if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Okay, Ms. Barlow, please.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Stephanie Bartlow. I have 2 children in the district. Enough is enough. The kids are safe and always have been. We all know that this virus affects them differently than you and I. The mortality risk from COVID-19 is lower than from the flu. For those of you wanting mask mandates, where were you 2 years ago with your masks? More children have died from that. A further question is how effective are these masks that they want you to enforce? You will find studies on both sides and people claiming to be experts. Millions of people have been led to believe that the only way they can protect themselves against this virus, besides being vaccinated, is by strapping a piece of cloth around their noses and mouths. The mask has become so politicized that it prevents rational consideration of evidence and drives levels of acrimony, invidious actions, and disdain. There are several studies that found cloth and surgical masks offer very little to no benefit at all. Face masks do not function after 20 minutes of being saturated. As soon as they become saturated with the moisture in your breath, they stop doing their job and pass on the droplets. I'm not sure if any of you guys have read the CDC's guidelines about proper masking on their website, but it says, as I quote, "Not all masks provide the same protection. You need a mask with layers, one that fits correctly, etc." And specifically, it says, do not wear if wet or dirty. It states that wet masks are hard to breathe through and less effective. So, are teachers going to have to be the mask police? Will you need to hire special mask enforcers to make sure that children are wearing accurately and changing out their masks when they get wet with saliva? Because they do not work if those things happen. There's also lurking pathogens found on the masks worn all day by kids. A report found contamination with bacteria, parasites, fungi, and pneumonia-causing bacteria. Further, there's the psychological damage of why a mask is not just a mask. ER visits linked to mental health problems, example, anxiety, were up over 25% in each age grouping last year, as was suicide ideation. If the possible harms outweigh the negligible and questionable benefit in such a low-risk group, then why must they be mandated? Masks in children with such a near zero risk of transmission and illness from COVID is not necessary and is illogical and irrational. Irrational fear and hysteria has held on for too long. Enough is enough. DeWine made a request to schools. There is no mandate from the government. You are the liaison between the community and the school district. Please let us parents parent. We know our children, and we do what's best for them. For those that want to make their children wear masks, by all means, but please do not mandate it for all. We are not going to be quiet anymore. Thank you.
Okay, that's me, Akoya? I think it's spelled A-C-H-O-R-Y-A. You do not want to speak? Okay. Thank you. Michelle Scholl? Did I pronounce that right?
It's Shoal. It's fine.
Okay, thank you.
I have two students that go to Fairfield City Schools. So I have medical facts and questions. There is no legitimate scientific study showing face masks stop a virus. Actually, they pose their own risk, not the least of which is hypoxia, low oxygen levels affecting all body functions, which studies have shown is associated with impaired immunity. Face masks provide a warm, moist environment that is perfect breeding ground for COVID and a host of other viruses and bacteria. Sorry, I'm nervous. Where's the pandemic if 99.8% of people who get sick also recover? Why were other recent pandemics like SARS and MERS, both coronaviruses that reached the U.S. in 2017 and 2014 respectively and were transmitted the same way, never declared an emergency? We never wore masks during that. They were highly contagious diseases and they had a much more higher mortality rate. Personal health decisions are just that, personal, and cannot be mandated by law. A face mask is legally designated as a medical device by FDA Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, Section 201H, Definition 2. Therefore, in every state, including Ohio, face masks are required as a medical device. Even just recommending that someone wear a regulated medical device, the mask, is the unlicensed practice of medicine according to ORC 4731.41 and 4731.34. This violation is a 5th-degree felony. Forcing someone to wear a mask to enter a business is illegal under the Federal Civil Rights Law Title II, which requires that as a public place accommodation, your business must provide free and equal access to all services and facilities without discrimination. ORC 4112.02 further prohibits you from preventing entry to the full enjoyment of the business establishment as no law has been broken. And last, and certainly not least, we are all made in the image of God. All of us are. That is my belief. He didn't make us with masks on us. And I feel that's why I love Fairfield. And that's why my husband and us moved here, because we didn't feel like we were going to be discriminated against. So if you mandate this, you would be discriminating against me because of my belief. I think those masks are demonic. They are. That is my personal belief. And if you want to wear them, more power to you. If you want to get the vaccine, more power to you.
Thank you,
We
Ms.
all
Schultz.
can respect each other. That's what I love about Fairfield. We all have the right. You don't discriminate against anyone. You want to wear the mask? Great. You don't want to wear the mask? Don't. You want to come here and wear whatever? I'm in.
All right, thank you, Ms. Scholl, very much for your
Thank you.
time. Okay, after our next speaker, the three would be Michelle Hartman, Zach Geyer, and Mike Miller. So our next speaker is Michael Luigi?
Lively.
I'm sorry?
Lively.
Lively, I apologize, Lively. Is it Lively?
L-Y, just like the word.
Okay,
Don't worry, I had a college professor insisted on calling me Lavelli.
I just
You
couldn't
got
read
her
your handwriting, I
in front of her.
apologize. All right, please continue.
Thank you. Thank you all to the board for your service. We have two sons, me and my wife, we have two sons in the district, a freshman and a senior. Now, fortunately, no one in our family, none of us tested positive for COVID last year. None of us were, in fact, symptomatic. Who knows, we could have had it and just didn't know it. But we chose to do the vaccinations. All four of us did. As soon as we could get the kids in, we did it. And that was based on our own personal calculation of risk and our situation and our extended family. We were excited to get back to some normality. We were very pleased when we saw that the district was not imposing a mask mandate, and we're strongly opposed to any sort of a mandate now. Despite reporting from our media and statements from our elected officials, many of our elected officials, the numbers themselves just don't justify this kind of hysteria. The governor's latest statement yesterday, I believe cited in the notice, sounds frankly a lot like a mafia threat. He says that the best way to make sure that your child can stay in school and not have his or her classes interrupted is for that child to be vaccinated, and if that child can't be vaccinated, the best way to ensure a good school year is for that child to wear a mask in class. It sounds something similar. This is a nice story you have. It'd be too bad if something happened to it. I looked at the published numbers in the last couple of days from the Ohio Department of Health. They're readily available on the internet, the oracle of all truth. Everyone talks about case numbers, but let's get real, what we're really talking about is mortality and death rates. That's what we're really interested in. In Ohio, we have a population of roughly 11.5 million people. Since the COVID outbreak, we've had 20,648 deaths in Ohio. In their same statistics, they break that out into 0 to 19 years of age. In that same time period of that 20-some thousand, 7 deaths in that age range of the 20,000. If you break that out into a percentage, 0.000339, in other words, that's 0.03% of our fatalities are in school age. So some are concerned, rightfully so, with serious illness, of course. Hospitalizations, the numbers aren't really that worse. In the 0 to 19 range, 1,723 hospitalizations out of a total of almost 64,000. That counts for almost 2.7%, not a big number. These are the types of numbers we do not hear from our media. These are the types of numbers we don't hear from our governor. These are not the types of numbers we hear from those advocating mask mandates. Yeah, no one wants to die. It's a shame that any kids die. 7 is bad. No one wants death, but life itself is a risk, and we have to accept that. Risk cannot be eliminated. And just for comparison, I looked up National Highway Traffic Safety. In the year 2019, 0 to 19, 110 deaths in the course of 1 year.
Right.
110 in 12 months versus 7 for 18 months under COVID. Just something for perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Lively. Hey, Michelle Hartman?
Yeah, my name is Michelle Hartman. I am a resident of Fairfield and very happy to be a resident of Fairfield. I have a daughter that graduated in 2019, and I have 2 in South, one in 2nd grade and one in 3rd grade. I wanted to first say thank you. I can't imagine being in your positions over the past 18 months. I know that in March 2020, the pressure you had to feel was something that none of us can probably understand. You kept our kids safe. You did the best you could. I appreciate it. I appreciate the home learning opportunities. I appreciate my kids going back to school. Thank you very much. My children were super psyched this year to go to school. They were so excited, and more excited that we weren't going to have the mask on our face. To keep them from putting masks on their face, I'm even driving them to school. So I wake up 2 hours early now to get some of my work done before they get up so that I can drive them to school so that they don't have to cover their faces anymore. They get out of the car smiling and very happy. We're not at the same situation we were in March 2020. I appreciate all that you've done. I'll say it over and over again. I can't thank you enough. If we need to have masks mandated in school, then we're going to have to get a very large supply of the correct masks to protect us from each other. We need N95 masks. They need to be shaped every single day perfectly on the child's face to protect them. They can't be pieces of cloth. They can't be covered. Things like that, they don't work. We know that. We've all said that. I'm asking you to let the parents trust us to make the decisions for our families and our children, to not mandate this. This past summer, I was offered double what I paid for my house. No joke, double what I paid for my house in Fairfield. I said no to that. Said no to that because I love Fairfield, love my home. I have a daughter that graduated in 2019, and I'm bringing 2 more up through your school system in the exact same schools because I trust you. I didn't sell my house because I believe that you believe in us too. So I ask that through everything that you experience and everything you go through, please trust us to make the decision for our children. Forgive me for the emotion, but my 2nd and my 3rd grader have both told me that if you make them put masks on their faces, they're not going to school anymore. They're going to go back to the learning at home. They won't see their friends. They won't see their teachers because they're sad all day. Literally, like someone said, the moisture. They're literally like gross all day. They chose that. And my 3rd grader made this for you. I thought it was pretty awesome. It just says no mask. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Mr. Geyer, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Zach Geyer. I'll be brief as much as I can be. I'm going to spit out some numbers as similar as already been stated. January 2020 through now, as of today, I looked on coronavirus.ohio.gov, and their numbers state that the total amount of cases from ages 0 to 17 are 119,661. The total amount from the same age group that were actually hospitalized were 1,311. And the total deaths, which has been stated already, is 7. And that's got to be heartbreaking for those 7 families. I'm not denying that at all. But that percentage is incredibly small from the actual total cases that's not being announced or made known. The damages, on the other hand, of wearing a mask are going up in statistics. Suicide rates are going up. Here in Ohio, it's up 26% from social anxiety. And the CDC has said nationwide is up 31%. And the suicide rate, what I'm talking about, is in youth. And it's what we are doing by saying mask is we are saying we cannot trust the person next to us. We cannot trust the air we breathe. We got to be able to trust our fellow person. The science, they keep saying that we've been following. The N95 mask has been talked about briefly. And I've heard FBI agents who delve into this area, and they've talked about the microbe count is, N95 can stop a 0.3 microbe. The COVID-19 is at a 0.1. The analogy was given that it's like throwing a marble through a chain link fence. These numbers blow me away that we're considering a mask mandate again when it was proven last year it was ineffective. Masks only create problems with social anxiety, which could lead to suicides or depression or you name it. Dr. Fauci himself has even said that masks don't work. He's been trying to cover that up, but that's his own words. I mean no offense by this, but the mask mandate would only protect the school's image and what they consider the public's eye. It's not protecting the kids at all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Guy. After Mr. Miller, we're going to have Carla Feig, Samantha Begley, and Shannon Dickinson. Okay. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Board, and thank you, Superintendent Smith, for your time. First, before I get into my remarks, I would like to thank Fairfield for Change with their important work on that solidarity statement. I live in Fairfield Township. I have a daughter who just started 6th grade at Crossroads Middle School. Last year, she was at East Elementary, wore masks the entire year. One kid in her class throughout the entire year they had a COVID case. She wore a mask the entire time. Besides complaining that her glasses fogged up sometimes, she had absolutely no problem with it. This year at Crossroads, in her very limited experience there, without the mandate, she's noticed that only approximately 1/3 of the kids are consistently wearing a mask. And that sometimes she feels awkward wearing a mask because she feels like she is being, kind of ostracized or slighted. Parents out there that say, well, it's their choice that their kids wear a mask. It's your choice that your kid takes the mask to school. It's not their choice to continually wear it, because our teachers unfortunately don't know what kids are supposed to be wearing masks, what kids aren't supposed to be wearing masks. That's just unreasonable expectation for them to enforce. So I would highly recommend that the board, she's 11, she is unable to be vaccinated currently. She is not eligible. So I would highly recommend to the board that to please mandate masks, at least in buildings that have children that are unable to be vaccinated due to current age limitations. My wife is an ICU nurse over at UC Westchester. She has seen way too many times the damages that this virus has caused, and currently the ICU is full once again for the 4th time during the course of this pandemic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Hey, Carla Feig, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
Oh, wow, how about that? I got one right.
Hi. So there's been a lot of good, well, first of all, I'm Carla Feig, and I appreciate all your guys' time and everything that you do for the school. I have a couple of points that I wanted to make. The suicide thing is definitely something that I think you should take into consideration. I know that I have 2 boys in your school system, and the masks were very hard for them. Depression, I don't know if I can say it's depression because they're in 7th, 6th grade, but I know that it was really uncomfortable for them. I'm just so nervous right now, I'm so sorry. So we've never treated a virus like this before, not ever. I mean, I've been around for, 40-something years, and we've never, ever been walking around with masks on, and there's been a lot of different viruses to come and go. I think that the numbers are being exaggerated by the media. I think the media is so responsible for so much of this fear that the 99.9999% survival rate in itself, that's with regular, healthy people, not just children, but children rarely show this, symptoms, or they can rarely get sick from this virus. I do know that the bacteria on their masks is really gross. They wear these all day, and kids are just kind of gross in general, just with their germs and stuff, that wearing the mask is just, on top of all of that, is just, let's see. I also believe that the verbal communication between the teachers and the students are really important, as well as their classmates. That might be the only smile they get for their whole entire day, like from their teacher or from their classmate. I think that it's missing when I just think that the smiles and stuff are really important for children growing up. And let's see, I think it's a personal choice. I don't understand why the people that wear masks or want the children to wear masks are so adamant about my child wearing a mask, because if they believe that the masks work, well, then they shouldn't really care who's wearing a mask and who's not wearing a mask, because their child's wearing one. So I don't understand why they I like those signs over there. Let's see. I believe that it should be a parent's choice to whether or not your child wears a mask. And if you want your child to, that's great. If you don't, that's great.
Thank you very much for your
I know I had a
comments.
bunch of other points, but thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Samantha Begley?
Hi. I would like to say that the idea that healthy people are endangering others simply by breathing is the biggest scam in the history of the world. I'm here representing my 11th grade daughter, and she was in the school building this morning, and her teacher, Mrs. Swigart, suggested that masks were coming back tonight. Then she proceeded to invite students to raise their hand if they were vaccinated. I do not appreciate my daughter being in a situation like this. This school is turning this into a circus, a political circus. And I do not appreciate my daughter being subjected to being asked questions if they're vaccinated, or what their mask status is, or what they feel, or anything like that. I believe it's a personal choice. I also believe Fairfield made the right choice by allowing parents to choose. The last 3 days, 80% of students showed up with no mask. Some reports have told me closer to 90% of students showed up with no mask. This has shown me that Fairfield has spoke. Fairfield has told you by sending their children 80% and 90% to school that they do not want their children masked. I would ask that you allow families to choose if they want to send their students, their children, to school with a mask or not. I believe the people of Fairfield are competent to choose for their children if a mask is appropriate for them or if a mask is not appropriate. Lastly, I would like to include that teachers and older students have the right to be vaccinated. And with them being able to choose that, that makes it safer for more people. And I believe younger children need to breathe while they're at school. Also, I believe that this is still the United States of America, the land of the free, and it is about time we act like it.
Okay, after Ms. Dickinson, we're going to have Craig Davis, Erica Burns, and Melissa Baumgartner. Okay, Ms. Dickinson.
Good evening. I wanted to start with reading a box on a face mask box here. It says these are not for personal protection equipment. They are not intended as replacements or substitutes for personal protection equipment. These products are not intended for medical use or to prevent any disease or illness. Each mask is intended for single use only. It says it right on the box. These don't work. They're simply to catch blood splatter in an OR. And they can't be worn more than 2 hours at a time. And you know these little kids, as many have stated, are disgusting. They're touching every surface, then touching their mask, inhaling all of that. And there was a study that was done. These parents sent all their masks from their kids to be tested. They were full of bacteria. Disgusting, like whatever you get with poop. Salmonella. Like, it was just terrible. But I wanted to, sorry, I'm so nervous. I just wanted to speak on a personal level and try not to cry. Last year was hard for everyone, and I'm at any level, on any side that you're on. I'm sure last year was hard for everyone. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I have 3 children, 2 in high school and 1 in middle school. My 13-year-old daughter had no less than 5 panic attacks last year. She can't stand to have her face fully covered. In every class, they got onto her and got onto her every time it was under her nose. Some kids just can't do it. You're offering no online help again. And some kids just can't do it, and that should be a factor. I should be able to choose for my kid. We should not be discriminated because we're vaccinated, unvaccinated, we think masks are good, or we don't. This has been a world where we could all make our own free choices. You can choose to have an abortion, you can choose to keep your child, you can choose anything and have the consequence of that. That's life. So I just think that if you could please consider keeping things as they are. These children do not need to be masked. It is not helping anyone. It is only making things worse.
Mr. Davis?
Yes,
Okay.
good evening. I'm going to keep this pretty short. A lot of people have gotten up here and spoken, quoted facts and figures, spoken very emotionally about the situation. If you follow the science, then you will not mandate masks. We're talking about the least affected population on the planet, children, 18 and under. They're adversely affected by masks. We all know all that. So I'm just going to leave it at that. If you follow the science, you will not mandate masks. Thank you.
We have Mrs. Burns? Erica Burns?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you all for taking the time out to hear us parents tonight. I've just come to show my support for the district keeping things the way that they are and allowing the parents to choose. I do believe in medical freedom, and I think that includes choice to wear a mask or not, and the choice to be vaccinated or not. I do have concerns with the length of time that the children are wearing the masks. It's not an hour or 2 hours, we're talking a long school day. So I think that's my largest concern with it, and that would be the thing that I would ask you guys to consider most, is the length of time that we're asking the kids to wear them. Also, adults as well as children are often touching their masks, and
they're always touching, they're grabbing their masks in the front rather than grabbing like the straps and pulling them this way and then setting them in a place that wouldn't get dirty. And it almost seems like it kind of impedes on the very thing that we're trying to do by, if you do have something like a viral or a bacterial infection, you're touching the very thing that's holding it, and then that child might be touching something after that. So it doesn't make sense to me in the sense that people are not taking them off correctly, or they're always constantly touching their face with them. I also have concerns with the moisture and the bacterial and viral contamination that can kind of grow with that length of time for them wearing them. And the kid is breathing it back in because it's trapped. And also the carbon dioxide that's trapped in that small area. I have more concern with the oxygen limitation as well as the carbon dioxide being trapped than I do the coronavirus. That length of time for a child to not be able to breathe freely is more concerning to me as a parent than the coronavirus. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Okay, after Mrs. Baumgartner, we're going to have Drew Brinker, Adriel Kirkland, and Jordan Ficklin. Please, Ms. Baumgartner.
Thank you for the school board to allow us to speak to this evening. I just wanted to let you know before I start speaking, I've been working in the medical field in the hospitals and doctors' offices for over 25 years of my life. And never have I seen anything like what we've experienced the last almost 2 years now. I had a child that graduated in 2020. It was the worst graduation experience I could have ever given her. She also graduated from Fairfield, and I know you all felt that for them as well. I am 100% opposed to mandating masks in these schools. According to a mask study at Stanford University in November of 2020, 39 separate trials were conducted with 34,000 participants, showing that there was no difference in transmission of droplets from these masks and for those who wore masks and those who did not. The study also showed the psychological and physiological effects of wearing face masks. For example, a few of these physiological effects are shortness of breath, dental issues, asthma, acne, staph infections, impetigo, increased muscle tension, headaches, and immunosuppression. The wearing of face masks for longer than 10 to 50 minutes per day increases the likelihood of developing severe headaches. Some psychological effects of wearing the mask are having a fight or flight stress response, chronic stress condition, fear, mood disturbances, a compromised cognitive performance, insomnia, and Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which means that the mental health problem in which a caregiver makes up or causes an illness or injury to another person for his or her care. For example, as a parent would make a child wear a football helmet for fear that they may have a falling rock from the sky hit them in the head daily. These masks are creating fear and a paranoia of a respiratory virus infection where there is a 99.997% chance of survival, and for children, the likelihood of death is 0.0008%. There is a higher likelihood of a child contracting the flu and dying than there is of them getting COVID and dying, which I don't want anyone to die, but those are just facts. Another study from April of 2020 in the New England Journal of Medicine simply states that masks do not prevent virus respiratory illness. If they did, then why do we wear them all the time? Why didn't we wear them all the time for the flu virus? The flu's been around since 1918. Why have we not consistently wear masks since then? That's been 102 years. Just to give you a visual of the pore size of the cloth face covering range is from 20 to 100 microns. The COVID virus is 200 to 1,000 times smaller than that at 0.1 microns. My point is that Mike DeWine has given this ultimatum of vaccinate or wear a mask. We as parents should be making the decision for our children's health, not the state, not the government, not the school. For the science and the reasoning everyone has so coveted the last year and a half has been replaced by fear-mongering and fear, and replaced our freedom. We will not stand to have our rights as a culture and as parents be stripped from us as from a woke, tyrannical government.
All right, thank you very much.
We are the parents, and we will make the choices that are best for our children's
Great.
health.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Hello, my name is Drew Brinker. I proudly serve Fairfield City School. This is my 14th year of teaching. I've been a lifelong resident. I'm lucky enough my mother served in the school district, and I love Fairfield, and if I'm being honest, I love what I see from everybody tonight. I think this is great, and I'm glad I'm not you guys, so making these decisions. Just wanted to let you know how Creekside is doing. Last year, everything was awesome, right? It was just like a challenge after challenge, and it was weird where I was talking to colleagues, and I thought it was pretty entertaining, but I couldn't get kids to respond to me, and somebody made the comment, it was like they were dead inside. And this year, they go to the gym before school, the doors open, and you could hear them coming. It was like, kids are back, kids are back. And so I don't really have evidence for you. I honestly am going to do whatever you guys tell me I have to do, but I do want to tell you at Creekside this year, it is just a different environment for the rules that we have in place. And can't wait to see what you guys decide. Thank you.
All right, Adriel Kirkland, did I pronounce that correct? Great.
Thank you. Not many gets that. So, my name is Adriel Kirkland. I have two daughters that went through Fairfield myself. I graduated in year 1998 here at Fairfield. I came here at Fairfield from a school that didn't accept me. I'm biracial, but I'm American. I came here to Fairfield and you guys gave me diversity, you protected my individual rights. So tonight, that's what I'm asking you to do tonight for my kids and for everybody else here. Just to go along with that, I'm a big person, history buff and all that kind of stuff. So one thing I like from history is we have come here to the crossroads. Freedom is a fragile thing. It's never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation. I like that because President Reagan said that. With that, you can give every example. Everyone tonight gave stats. I won't fit to that again, but masks do not work. That's just simply how it is. The mask you're wearing today, the cloth the ones wearing, the bandanas, they don't stop COVID-19. Science has shown that. If we just stick with science and education, there it is. Today marks 220 plus days of the 14-day flattening the curve. Enough is honestly enough. I'm a person that believes in just individual rights, choices, but I am tired that my choice is being taken away from me and from my family. As you heard from many people out here about sciences, that the pores of the mask do not catch the COVID-19. The country has spent trillions of dollars over the last year or two on this whole pandemic. I'm a person of logic. I asked for, and I've been waiting for patiently, one clinical study, one peer review that shows masks actually work. And there's not been. Now, people say that, I'm a conspiracy theory myself and all that kind of stuff, but I just state with this. This year, on August, Dr. Francis Collins, the director of NIH, while during an interview, talking about masks, claiming from the CDC claimed that really hates that we have to make recommendations based on anecdotes and not data. We're all living in fear. That is it. Now here it is. I choose not to wear a mask. I choose not to get vaccinated. That's my choice. If you decide to, I respect that choice, and I will fight for you just as much as I ask you to fight for my choice. That is it. Keep masks optional. Keep it an individual choice. And I leave with this, as I started with President Reagan. There is no justification for taking away individual freedoms in the guise of public safety. Thomas Jefferson. Thank you.
Before Mr. Ficklin starts, the next group will be Tracy McLaughlin, Nick Sadeko, and Sarah Romaker. Okay, Mr. Ficklin?
My name is Jordan Ficklin. I have 4 children in 4 different schools here in Fairfield City Schools. And I want to thank all of you for your service through this difficult time and thank the teachers for all the hard work they've done. Always, but especially over the last year and a half and everything we've done. I'd like to speak in favor of the decision to make a mask mandate. I don't have any statistics to share with you because I assume that you have all done what we've elected you to do and you've done your research coming into this meeting where you're going to discuss this, that you already know what the statistics are. I would just ask you to listen to the recommendations of the community health professionals, the boards of health, that are asking that mask mandates be put in place because that's what they believe would be the best thing for our students. I had hoped that we wouldn't need a mandate this year, not just because the virus had gone away, but because the students in the schools would make the decision to wear masks on their own. But what I hear from my children in the schools is that's not the case, that the vast majority of students are choosing not to wear a mask. And if they are wearing masks, to protect others, as is what they tell us the masks do. If they're not going to make that choice for themselves to protect those around them, we need to help them make that decision so that they can protect the people around them. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Tracy McLaughlin?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Tracy McLaughlin. I'm the nurse at Fairfield East. It's my 4th year there. It's my 15th year working in a school as a nurse. I'm not going to go through the same statistics. I have it down, but I won't, that everybody has repeated. I am against the masks. I'm going to quickly list, though, the harmful effects of wearing a mask on the kids, and this is scientific data as well. And I want you to think about what this impact would have on these kids trying to learn and their brains that are trying to develop. They have increased anxiety and depression, headaches, dizziness, difficulty concentrating, drowsiness, decreased cognitive function, malaise, decreased happiness, reluctance in attending school, fatigue, increased levels of carbon dioxide and oxygen deprivation, physical damage to infants and toddlers. They are unable to recognize facial expressions, which is critical in that child's age group, and our special needs group of children. There are numerous articles and sources of medical doctors that speak to the carbon dioxide, and I don't know if you guys have read that, but there is, by law, every state or country has a number that is acceptable in a closed space for adults to breathe in, and they have done studies and like experiments where they have. In Germany, there are some doctors from Poland and Austria where kids were breathing in a mask for 3 minutes, and the levels were 6 to 10 times higher than what is acceptable for adults to breathe in. This affects their brains growing. They can't think, they can't concentrate. And so now I'm just going to go off of that and get off the numbers, but I worked in the school last year, I work in it this year. I have kids come in my office on a daily basis getting medicine, getting their inhalers, getting their insulin. And so many of the kids are wearing the same mask every day. It's dirty, it's stained, it's not getting washed. I give them brand new masks and implore them to wear it, and they wear the same one again. It is doing absolutely nothing, whether it's a clean one or a dirty one, but in essence, the dirty ones are even worse. But as the other teacher spoke to, it is a different vibe in the hallways and in the classrooms. Kids can see their friends, they can see their, I don't know how to stress enough that it is enough. These kids have got to be kids. They've got to be able to smile and see their classmates smile and their teacher smile at them. These are like nonverbal cues that they've got to learn how to pick up on. And I had a mom come in my office today to bring in medication refill, and she was crying to me, and she said, she had her daughter's birthday party this summer, and her daughter didn't recognize her classmates without their masks because she didn't see them. We're talking, these kids are wearing their masks for hours and they're not working for 3 minutes in the study. So we've got hours that we're asking them to do something, and I will also speak to this and then I'll stop. But the headaches and the dizziness in my office all year long, and every time they come in, especially when it's 90 degrees outside and they're wearing a stupid mask outside. It's stupid. I'm sorry, but it's stupid. And they can't breathe.
Thank you very much for your comments.
And
Thank
I
you.
ask them to just go lay down away from me and take your mask off and breathe.
All right. Thank you very much for your comments. Next, I'm sorry, Sedenko?
Salcedo.
Okay, thank you. Can you spell that for me, please?
Salcedo.
Thank you very much.
So my name's Nick Salcedo. Me and my wife, we have 3 girls. We live in Fairfield Township. Me personally, I'm a healthcare worker. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I work at Mercy Hospital right here in Fairfield. My wife, she's an ER nurse. She works at Tri-Health, that one out in Montgomery. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But actually, yeah, Bethesda North. Thank you. There we go. All right, so both of us have lived through this pandemic, various different sides of the overall spectrum, but we're both frontline healthcare employees. The first thing that I just want to take you through, again, thank you for the time and everything. I just want to talk a little bit about a brief history of my childhood. So when I was 5 to 7 years old, don't remember how old I was, it was a very long time ago, my brother came home with chicken pox. Standard practice at the time, we all got together in the same room and played because after you get it, you don't get it anymore, right? So we went through the misery of taking the soaps, having the oatmeal thrown on us, whatever crazy thing we did at the time, so we would never have to worry about it again. 10, 15 years later, we figure out, you know what, those chicken pox kind of had a dormant virus that resides in our spine, and at some opportunistic time in the future, it's going to affect us, and it will affect us catastrophically in some cases, and it can be a permanent, very debilitating issue with it. So as we talk today is the 3rd day in a row that, according to the ODH website, that we have over 3,000 cases of COVID in Ohio. All these trends that we're looking at, state over state, Ohio included, these numbers continuously go up. So we can have the debate about what's the best case, what's the best path forward. What we do know as of right now is the masks work. In the hospitals, they work. Countless research articles that I've read that have been presented to us as healthcare workers, they work in the healthcare setting, in the community setting, when used appropriately. So that is the big thing that I want to stress to you. Some of the other things that we know, this Delta variant is running rampant through our children. They're getting more sick. Not the fact that they're ending up in the hospital or dying, but they're being affected more. One of the things that is concerning to me is the long-term implications of it. I recently was at a continuing education course. We're talking to pediatric therapists. One thing that they notice is there is significant changes within several months of these kids having mild symptoms. Their lungs, their kidneys, their vital organs are being affected. Who knows if that's short term? Who knows if that's long term? Who knows if that's something that's going to reside within our bodies and then at some point in the future that's dramatically going to affect us. So one thing that I just want to say, from a healthcare worker that lived through this, that saw countless patients within this hospital suffer from those COVID symptoms, I'm also treating patients with long-term COVID symptoms. One easy thing that we can do to prevent our kids from getting sick, to prevent them from a lifetime of debility, because we don't know, there's no long-term research that proves one way or another if it does affect or it doesn't. One little simple thing that we can do, it's an inconvenience, I will guarantee you that. I've worn this mask 40 plus hours a week for the past year and a half, and I'm sick and tired of it, but it works.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you guys for your time.
Okay, before Ms. Romaker comes up, the next group would be Thomas Roybell, Jennifer Moore, and Meg Shannon. Okay, Ms. Romaker, did I pronounce that correctly?
It's Romaker, Sarah
Romaker,
Romaker.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I have all my handouts with all my statistics and everything that everybody else has already mentioned. So really, I'm just going to kind of wing it. You know, I'm sitting over here listening to all these parents talk, and the fact that we have to be here to stop somebody from telling me that I have to put a mask on my kid's face makes me angry. I am angry that I have to be here to plead with somebody to stop them from making me cover my child's face at school. It's absolutely ridiculous. We know the masks don't work. COVID poses essentially statistically no risk to our kids. I don't understand why why these masks could be mandated when there's no scientific proof claiming that they even work or that they help in a classroom setting. We do know that there are harms. We know that there are harms and risks associated with wearing these masks. These masks are medical devices. I'm a nurse practitioner. When you make someone use a medical device or you do a medical procedure on them, there has to be informed consent. If you are going to mandate my child to wear a mask, then I expect to see the scientific studies that you are basing these recommendations and mandates on. And I would also like the harms to be listed, the potential harms and risks of these masks to be listed as well. I am the parent, you present me with that, and then I will make the choice as to whether or not my child wears a mask. I want to commend the one board member who was brave enough to sit up there and the fact that the rest of you are sitting up there with your cute little Fairfield masks on. I'm sorry, it is not the norm. It is not normal to cover our faces. It is not healthy for our children. I'm sorry, I'm emotional. This just makes me so angry that someone can take the right away from me, my child's parent, and mandate them to wear a medical device on their face 7 hours a day. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have Thomas Roybell next.
All right, thank you all for making some time to see us. And thank you for the open forum. Hopefully, we truly have some open minds. Telling a quick little story about then and now. So 18 months ago, we were taken surprise with a virus of unknown risk and very little understanding of the spread. The outcome didn't look good. We had no vaccine, our healthcare system was caught flat-footed, and we did what any sane civilization would have done. We overreacted. Quite honestly, that overreaction wasn't enough, as we found out that this virus really took aim at the most vulnerable. We made a lot of good decisions, we made some bad ones. We're gonna pay those consequences for a long time, and they're huge ones. I truly believe we did the best we could with what we know, but that was then. This is now. Now the worst thing we could do is to continue to mount up the tally of bad decisions. Then, in April of last year, my family bought rolls of cloth so that we could keep masks for healthcare workers. My wife stitched some very fashionable masks for all of us to wear, and we thought that was good then. But now we know those masks lead to decreased oxygen levels, increased heart rate during any activity, heavy hand-to-face contact, and headaches during extended wear and use. Then we decided that homeschool was the best thing for my son, which, by the way, makes me respect what you guys do a whole lot more. We now know that his friendships and social interactions were way more valuable than we originally banked on, and it scares us to think that we might go back to homeschool because of decisions being made by the board today. Then we had vulnerable relatives we wanted to see again, and we wanted to give them a hug with peace of mind and free of guilt. Now we've seen those same loved ones contract the disease some other way. They've recovered, and now they've joined us in bewilderment over the continued extreme policies and forfeited freedoms in the name of statistical rarities. Along the way, we've lost a grandpa to COVID in a nursing home where he thought we was in the safest place he could be. Now, we know that him wearing a mask exacerbated his existing lung problems, and we asked him to fight a fight weakened because of it. We didn't know what was best for him then. We thought we were doing what we should. We know better now. So what does the science say? Masks do exacerbate psychological disorders. Masks do make it more difficult to concentrate. Masks do cause increased heart rate, exhaustion, and fatigue. Masks are the end to public education for any child suffering from asthma, COPD, epilepsy, respiratory disease, panic disorders, and nobody's asking where these kids' rights are. Those risks greatly outweigh the minuscule bad outcomes we've seen from our kids. The science says to protect the vulnerable, get help fast, and if you choose to, take a vaccine. Then we trusted the science, at least as best we could. Now, I'm asking you guys to do the same thing. We've taken a year of very valuable life from our kids. Continuing mask mandates now is anti-science, potentially illegal, and unnecessarily cruel.
Great, thank you very much. All right, Jennifer Moore.
Hello, Board. My name is Jennifer Moore, and I am an educator in the district. And I don't have all the statistics and all of that stuff, but I just want to speak for the children. When we closed back in March, it was tough on my parents. It was tough on my children. Data, educational purposes, we saw a difference when they came back. It was a huge gap. I'm not speaking for or against, but I can say this. Every parent in this class, in this room, we love our kids. And I'm speaking for our kids, even if you want to wear a mask or you don't. We can say together, I hope, we love our kids and we want the best for our kids. Now, with that being said, I know that it has been said, get a vaccine or wear a mask. My goal for the district is do whatever we need to do to keep our babies in school. Because I know from being a teacher, they need to be in school, they need the interactions, they need to have that socialization. It's very important. I do teach first grade. I teach with this on all day. It's tough with 25 first graders, but I make it work. So whatever we need to do to make sure our babies are educated so they can progress to do what they need to do in society, we need to do it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Okay, before Ms. Shannon comes up, the last three will be Brenda Saylor, Laura Krupke, and Crystal Morris. Okay, Ms. Shannon?
Hi, I apologize being one of the last speakers. I'm probably going to repeat a lot of what's already been said. I am here today to stress the importance of maintaining choice in our schools regarding masks. On June 23rd, Senate Bill 22 established that the governor and the Department of Health do not have the authority alone to mandate masks or lockdowns. Last year, school masks were mandatory, yet it did not prevent the spread of COVID. And I understand that from the board's perspective, if even one child is injured as a result of COVID exposure, the district could face liability consequences, and I would never discount the loss of even one life. But everything we do in life carries risk. Is that not why we as parents sign liability waivers at the beginning of each school year in regards to potential risks involved in transportation, sports, etc.? The district website clearly states that there is a risk assumed in sending your child to school. These same principles apply here. I believe every parent should do whatever they believe is best for their child. You may not agree with my opinion, I may not agree with yours, but I respect your choice. My daughter is just beginning her lifelong educational journey. I refuse to have her to be forced to wear a mask that restricts her ability to breathe for 8 hours a day. Carbon dioxide is a waste gas.
Inhaling one's own waste gas causes a condition known as blood acidosis. The results of this are breathing rate and breathing volume increase, blood pressure increases, heart rate increases, the kidney goes into overdrive, blood vessels in the extremities constrict, restricting blood flow to these body parts. Arteries in the brain, spinal cord, and heart dilate. The body's mechanisms become overwhelmed, and the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord functions are depressed. Forcing my child to wear a mask is putting her life at risk, a slow death, not to mention the negative emotional and social effects. As educators, you must know that 75% of communication is nonverbal. Masks strip children of their individuality, their smiles, their expressions. I'm a taxpaying member of this community, and my child has a right to a free public education, but I'm not paid to stay home. I work 40 hours a week. I don't have 8 hours a day to homeschool my child, and I want her to have the developmental benefits of social interaction. Please maintain freedom of choice in our schools. For the parents that want to vaccinate and mask up their children, fine, I respect you. And for the parents that don't, I respect you too. One last thing, the flu is never going away. There will always be new variants. There always have been. We must continue to live our lives. And right now we have an opportunity as a district to be an example to other school districts, that we stand for our medical freedoms. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay. Brenda Saylor.
Hi, my name's Brenda Saylor. My son had open heart surgery when he was 11. He's now 14. Last year, he had to wear that mask 8 hours a day. He came home. He was sick more last year than he has been throughout his school years. He come home, his mask was soaking wet. It was broke out around his face. The germs that he was breathing in, he already has a learning disability. And not getting fresh air into his lungs, breathing back carbon dioxide, it's not good. And I'm sure there's other parents that are going through the same thing. He would pull his mask down at school just to get a breath, and the kids would start screaming at him, "You're going to cause us to die." Is this what we're doing to our children? We're brainwashing them that if they don't have a mask on, they're going to die? This nonsense, this stuff has to stop. My son has allergies. When he sang in the choir, I couldn't even hear him, let alone see his smiling face. I find that ridiculous that we would do that to our children when they went outside to play. You're supposed to be able to be outside without a mask. They had to wear a mask. Now he's wearing the mask on the bus. When he gets home, his little face is so red, his ears are red. It's not right. Since COVID-19, I don't know about everybody else, but I haven't heard about the flu. I think a lot of this was the flu, and everybody just put it to COVID-19 because that was something that was going around. We were like lambs led to slaughter back in 2020. We have been educated somewhat. Now we need to look at the evidence. Things have become so political that I can't believe anything because one person says this, another says that. I just know how it is affecting my child. I know that it is not right that he can't smile and people see his smile, or that his friends are scared if he pulls his mask down. That's pretty much what I wanted to say. I'm begging you to please not do this to him again. I'm a Christian, and I believe that God knows when each of us is going to go, not COVID.
Thank you very much. Laura Krupke.
grumpy. I'm the mother of a proud mother, a graduate of the class of 2020 from Fairfield, and I currently have a junior in this school. And I'm just going to cut out a lot of what I was going to say because a lot of people already covered it. The Ohio Board of Health and the CDC are advisory agencies, and they do not make laws. They make recommendations. So Superintendent Billy Smith graciously called me in response to an email that I recently sent him, and I appreciate that you took the time to do that. Thank you. Mr. Smith told me that this board has always followed the CDC and Ohio Board of Health recommendations. Members of the board, we hear these recommendations from government health agencies and officials just as you do. And frankly, it is not your place to dictate to parents or adult staff whether or not to heed these recommendations. As Mr. Smith told me, you're educators, not doctors. I'm not going to make my son wear a mask for hours on end, day after day, week after week, month after month, or until the government decides he doesn't have to anymore. These are our children, and we love them as you love yours. We know our own children the best, and we want more than anyone else what is best for our own children. And I am asking you to please continue to honor our role and the authority given to us as parents and guardians by keeping facial coverings optional at Fairfield City Schools. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comment. Okay, Crystal Morris.
Thank you. I don't have any fancy numbers. I'm not the greatest speaker in the world. This is just a plea from a concerned parent. I've grown up in this community. I went to the same elementary school that my son is now attending. I don't want to have to pull him out of this district, but I will if masks are mandated. I've always had the utmost respect for this school district because this is my home. I would hope that in the case of students wearing masks 7+ hours a day, this district would side with the parents having a right to choose what's best for their child. It's logically the only thing that makes sense. I think we can all agree that outside of COVID, we wouldn't appreciate anyone telling us medically how to take care of our own children. Because as parents, we are the ones that know them best. If any of you are parents, I'd ask you to critically think how you would feel if I were to stand here telling you that I know what's best for your family and your children. And I don't even personally know any of you. As we've seen from Lakota's decisions, protests have broken out. It doesn't sit well with a lot of parents, obviously. I'd hate to see our district go through that. As a taxpayer, a parent, a former Fairfield Indian, I hope that this district decides to respect me as a parent and doesn't give in to the pressure of the government and the media and everything else. Be an example for other districts when it comes to truly caring about the families in this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, this concludes the communication portion of our agenda. I do want to thank everyone for the most part being very respectful of people's opinion. I know it's very difficult to come up in front of the public and speak your mind because you're afraid of being ridiculed one way or the other. So I do appreciate everyone listening, and I know it's a very emotional issue, and then obviously you're going to have natural reactions to it, but I do appreciate that you kept it to a minimum. I hope you also give the board the same respect as we go through our discussion. You're probably going to hear different opinions one way or the other. I just ask you to please refrain from any kind of outbursts that you may have, but I do encourage you to stay around until when we have that discussion. We have a few items that we have to take care of first through some recommendations from the superintendent. And then when we're done with all those different recommendations, that's when we'll go into our discussion as a board. So if you'll just be patient with us for a minute while we go through some of those details, okay? Thank you very much.